While some are hoping state lawmakers will revamp the abortion law, many are banking on the ballot initiative to put the right to an abortion in the state constitution. And the march tonight was a prime opportunity to gather signatures toward that end.
People across the political and ideological spectrums to make this a reality.
A reality that for abortion rights supporters was hard to believe.
This is a nightmare.
I'm 21 and I'm terrified.
In the 5-4 vote, the justices overturned the landmark 1973 ruling that guaranteed a woman's right to abortion, sending the issue back to the states to set their own policies. Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has had damaging consequences, wrote Justice Samuel Alito in a decision joined by 4 other conservatives. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. 26 states had asked the court to overturn Roe. 13 already have laws on the books that would ban abortion almost immediately. The others are poised to ban or greatly restrict it.
Today, the Supreme Court of the United States expressly took away a constitutional right from the American people. Sad day for the court and for the country.
Welcome back to You Choose. I'm your host, Ariel. And in today's episode, I did want to discuss a hot topic, also a very sensitive topic. So just a disclaimer, I am not bashing anyone. I am not trying to be rude or unkind to anyone. I am just simply giving information and giving my opinion and opening up the door, the room for you to choose. Now, we'll be discussing, as the title shows, what's going on with the Roe versus Wade decision. To let you know what my opinion is at the end of the video, but for right now, I do want to provide just some information so that you guys kind of know why this decision has been made and what the true reason behind this decision is. Now, I will place some clips into this video to show the reason for the Roe versus Wade decision being overturned and why a lot of people are upset about it.
If you don't understand the destruction of Planned Parenthood offices, and you don't understand the wall that we're going to build on the southern border of the United States, you haven't read the book, The Dearth by Ben Wattenberg. Ben Wattenberg was a brilliant Jewish man who was a member of the American Enterprise Institute, and he wrote a book, the first paragraph of which says, "The main problem confronting the United States today is there aren't enough white babies being born in this country." He was an advisor to presidents of the United States. He wrote the book in 1987. He says if we don't change this and change it rapidly, white people will lose their numerical majority in this country, and this will no longer be a white man's land. Now, I'm not misrepresenting this. I'm telling you almost exactly what he says. He says there are 3 things we can do to solve this. Number 1, we could pay women to have babies, as they have been doing in Western European nations for years. Then he says, and these are his words, not mine, unfortunately, we would have to pay women of all colors to have babies, so we don't want to do that. He says the second thing we could do is increase the number of legal immigrants that are allowed into this country every year. Then once again he says, unfortunately, the vast majority of those wanting to come to this country today are people of color, so we don't want to do that. The third thing he says, and women had better pay attention to this, 60% of the fetuses that are aborted every year are white. If we could keep that 60% alive, that would solve our birth dearth. Does that sound like racism to you?
When Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth, and particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, United States Supreme Court Justice, July 2009.
When it comes to exposing eugenics in modern America, that quote by Ruth Bader Ginsburg is the smoking gun. I mean, here is the most radical advocate of legalized abortion that's ever been on the Supreme Court, openly admitting in the New York Times that the real issue was never women's rights or privacy or reproductive freedom or being pro-choice. No, what she is saying is that the driving force behind making abortion legal was to exterminate certain groups of people. In other words, it was the Supreme Court's way of legitimizing a philosophy that's been pushed for the last 150 years by these ultra-wealthy elitists who believe they have the right to eliminate anyone that they have decided is inferior. And Planned Parenthood became the golden child of these people because they're the ones who figured out how to put this philosophy into practice. It was Planned Parenthood who figured out that the way to make eugenics work is not to kill people, but to convince the targeted group to commit cultural suicide. And the way you do that is with birth control and abortion. And Planned Parenthood has been successful at this because, unlike other eugenics organizations, they have always been able to keep their agenda hidden, not only from the public, but often from their own people. I mean, there are Planned Parenthood employees and volunteers all over this country who I'm convinced have no idea what they're actually mixed up in. But when Ruth Bader Ginsburg said what she said in July of 2009, she let the cat out of the bag. She made it clear that abortion was legalized in order to eliminate people that she and other elitists just like her don't want there to be too many.
As you can see, a lot of people are upset with the Roe versus Wade decision being overturned because they feel like it was a selfish decision made by the Supreme Court. A lot of people believe that the reason why Roe versus Wade was overturned is because they want to, in fact, preserve the white race. Now, I totally agree. I do believe that that is the reason why, or one of the reasons why, the Roe versus Wade decision was overturned. I also believe that they are trying to create a war, a civil war between the red and the blue states. One can make that decision, or one can make that conclusion based off the rhetoric that the mainstream news has been pushing out ever since this decision has been overturned. Just check this out.
It's an obscene idea, given that 750,000 Americans died in the Civil War more than 150 years ago. But in recent years, as we've seen partisan politics deepen their divide along regional, racial, and ideological lines, loudly denying the legitimacy of the opposition, we've watched distrust escalate while hate proliferates. And with it, we've seen a sickening uptick in Second Civil War rhetoric.
The rigid refusal by lawmakers to compromise underscores the disturbing findings of one study on democracy in the US. According to a Washington Post editorial, data from the Center for Systemic Peace finds the US no longer technically qualifies as a democracy after the Trump administration years. It's somewhere between a democracy and an autocratic state. Barbara Walter is a professor of international relations at the School of Global Policy and Strategy at the University of California, San Diego. She joins me now, and I'm delighted. I mean, when we look at the research, it's frankly frightening, and you conclude that the US is, quote, closer to civil war than any of us would like to believe. How close?
Well, I've been studying civil wars for the last 30 years across the globe. And in fact, the last 4 years, I've been on a task force run by the CIA.
This is a textbook case of a country headed for civil war. It has all the attributes that lead to what the sociologists and economists and historians call a complex cascading system: hyperpartisanship, environmental degradation, high levels of inequality, and low levels of solidarity, as well as, declining faith in institutions and a rising tendency to violence. And, more or less what I see broadly is a struggle over the meaning of America, and that expressing itself through violence.
You can see CNN, NBC, all these different, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but anyway, all these different news stations have been using the same sort of rhetoric so that people will be pretty much brainwashed into picking a side, in a sense. The Republican people are rejoicing because they feel like that this is a win for them. Their quote-unquote God, Donald Trump, he did want them to abolish abortion and to overturn Roe versus Wade, and the fact that they did that, the Republicans are very happy about that.
Trump, on behalf of all the MAGA patriots in America, I want to thank you for the historic victory for white life in the Supreme Court yesterday.
a good thing. I think this is a win for the kingdom of Yah, because babies, especially Hebrew babies, are not going to be killed as much as they have been in the past. It's a known fact that the amount of Hebrew children that are being killed by the hands of abortion is equivalent to a Hebrew genocide, or to a black genocide, for many years now. And so the fact that now they have to either work harder to get these abortions, or they have to think of other ways to prevent themselves from being pregnant like they should have been doing, that is a win to me. That is a good thing. I also wanted to discuss on this video response that the black community had for the overturning of the Roe versus Wade decision. Just take a look here. Notice here, all these quote-unquote black leaders are upset that our children, Hebrew children, black children, are not going to be murdered at the rate that they were being murdered. And they've brainwashed you to be okay with that. They brainwash you to believe that you have no other option but to kill your child, even though there's so many options that you can do before you even get to the child. It's so many options that you can do before you get to a heart-beating child, fetus. But what they teach us, get rid of it. You don't have enough money. You're impoverished. You can't take care of the kids anyway. So why would you even want to have children? Because you can't take care of them anyway. And then this one girl on Twitter talking about, well, now you're going to see an uptick in women who will kill themselves because they don't want to take care of their children, because they can't get an abortion, so now they're going to kill themselves. You have a lot of options before you get to a fetus. You have a lot of options. And just in case you didn't know what those options are, let me give them to you. Condoms, Plan B, natural birth control, abstinence, those are options. Adoption, that's an option. Leave the baby at the fire station. That's an option. Those are options. Okay? Murder, abortion, unfortunately, is an option for many of y'all. Many years y'all got a lot of bodies on y'all, but it's not an option anymore. In some states you can still get abortions. So why are y'all so mad? Because now you gotta take responsibility. I'm a woman too, right? I'm a woman, and I'm taking responsibility for my body. You're mad because now you got to take responsibility for your body. You're saying that the government is making that decision for you. No, you have that decision. You just don't want to make it. You have that decision. You just don't want to do anything to be responsible and take accountability for your actions. The reason why I made this video is because it upset me so much to see our people especially act like that they are so helpless, that because that's what y'all making it look like. Now these other nations, they don't murder their children even half as much as the black community murder their children, but y'all the ones that's upset. It's just infuriating. So that's my opinion. I know a lot of you guys probably are upset about my opinion, you know, and I really don't care at the end of the day, because it is what it is. I think you're smart enough to know that if you do get pregnant, what to do in order to not have to care for your child. If you feel like you don't have the money to care for your child, give your child up for adoption. Don't worry about what happens after that because you want to kill him anyway. So just give him up for adoption. Impoverished, but you dropping $1,200 every time you get an abortion, but you're impoverished. Subscribe to the channel. I don't know how to end this video. I don't know how to end this video. I don't. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Listen to the podcast.